Well, 2026 is a big year for Victorians because this is an election year for them. They don't get to vote until November, but you can bet your boots that Labor Premier Jacinta Allen and the Victorian Coalition's new leader Jess Wilson have started campaigning from January 1. It will be a big election with national implications, and we will cover every move and every counter-move here on Sky News. To preview what we can expect as the shadow of facing the voters looms closer, I'm joined by Sky News contributor Karalee Katsambanis and broadcaster and producer of the hit podcast The Boy in the Gold Mine, Dee Dunleavy. Welcome to both of you. Let's start off with taxes, because Victorians from today, from January 1st, are facing 21 new or increased taxes, charges that have kicked in, transport fares, tolls, steep CBD parking fines, and a weird thing, which are vacant land taxes. Now, it's all got to drive up cost of living. I mean, at a time when cost of living is doing badly, this won't help. Karalee, are Victorians falling steeply out of love with this Labor Party?
Well, I do hate to say that you said that this is the election year. 3 years ago, Victorians actually voted for this. So I hope that their New Year resolution is come November, that they're wanting change, and Jess Wilson and the Coalition will actually provide that opportunity. At the moment, Victoria's state debt is $156 billion. And within a couple of years, it's tipped to go to $187 billion. They're astronomical numbers. And to break that down, Victorian taxpayers are repaying $1 million a day in interest payments. So $1 million an hour, I should say, but $24 million a day. I just want to say that to you again, Kel, and for the listeners, $1 million an hour, and that's $24 million a day. And this will just keep rising. It's a current state government that is just addicted to debt and to spending and to projects that just go nowhere. You know, there's a toy train that's being built as part of a loop, which is just going nowhere. And it's not a good crown for Victoria to wear, to be the highest taxing state government in the country. So, as you say, it is election year and Victorians have got a choice to make, and let's hope that they choose the right choice.
Well, Dee, the vacant land tax, which sounds weird to me, is meant, I think, to make more land available for homeowners. But with new taxes coming on, new costs coming on, is anything going to happen to make affordability and housing supply any better?
No, I don't think it is. And, you know, many people are already on their knees trying to afford daily life. And some of these new taxes include myki fares going up, as you mentioned, the parking, the tax on congestion tax on parking up 73% in the CBD for money to be spent on bicycle lanes and pedestrian crossings. These are essential. CityLink fees going up. These are things that everyday people need to use the roads, to park their car. And it's just going to add to the burden on people who are already struggling to afford to pay their day-to-day expenses. The obvious thing would have been, you know, Karalee just alluded to the toy train, the suburban rail link, $32 billion. The obvious thing would have been to scrap that, but such is the ineptness of this Labor government that they've already had the contract signed. And so to try and back out of that now is going to be almost prohibitively expensive. So we're backed into a corner. It's just a giant mess. It's hard to see our way through at the moment.
Well, looking at the two leaders and what their pitches will be, Jess Wilson is pitching a fresh start for 2026, which, after what you've just said, sounds very attractive, focusing on safety and responsible spending. Jacinta Allen is leaning on Labor's record. I'm not sure that that's wise. And she's leaning on that record at a time of, as Karalee said, massive debt and rising crime. Karalee, there was another machete attack in the city overnight. The crime crisis has got to be an election issue, surely.
Kel, it's not just an election issue, and as Dee pointed out, it's a daily issue here in Victoria. There is always a machete attack. I mean, all that money wasted on these ridiculous machete bins. They actually expected people to go down with machetes, young teenagers. We know that at the moment there are 1,100 repeat youth offenders where the police are catching them, they're being bailed by judges, and then they're reoffending within hours, and the cycle is continuing. They actually expected these machetes to be handed in. I mean, there's CCTV. What do they expect, you know, the parents to do? Walk down with the machete for these young offenders? It's ridiculous. But you know what? That was another $14 million of Victorian taxpayer dollars wasted on these bins. The Allen Labor government was told 2 years ago. They were the ones that watered down the bail laws. They were warned by Victoria Police. They were warned by the Victorian Liberal opposition that this was going to actually be the consequence. And as we say, we have had 2 children hacked to death only a couple of months ago, walking home from a basketball game. We've had a man highly featured on Sky News by Steve Price, with his hand hanging on by a thread severed. There's no victim crime compensation for that. Machete attacks are a real threat, and they're a daily occurrence. And you know what? Very sadly, I think people just have a tally. People are expecting this. There's a machete attack a day in Victoria. It's literally got to that.
And as well as that crime problem, Victoria under Labor is also an economic basket case. But the Liberals have managed to lose in the past to equally ham-fisted Labor governments. So, Dee, have they finally got their act together?
Well, I think Jess Wilson is a start. I think we have to bear in mind she's only been in this new role as Liberal leader here in Victoria for 6 weeks or so. She's got a long way to go. I think in far of recognition amongst the electorate, she's far less well known than Jacinta Allen is, so she needs to get her face out there more. She's doing a good job of that already. She's facing the cameras on every issue and getting a lot of media coverage. Her social media is really good, and I think that's going to be one of her strengths in that she'll appeal to a younger audience. She seemed to have a very direct and seemingly honest way of approaching things, which is a very nice contrast for us here in Victoria. We're used to being kept in the dark by our government. But the challenges she faces, as I said, voter recognition, and as yet we haven't actually heard what the Liberal Party policies are going to be. But I do believe that she is the person who's going to be able to challenge this government, take the challenge up to them, and possibly offer us some new leadership that we can actually respect.
Well, we'll find out in November, shan't we? Turning to national matters now, pressure continues to build on the Prime Minister to hold a royal commission into the Bondi terror attack. He's holding firm. Karalee, do you think Albanese might back down, or has he painted himself into a corner where he just can't do anything except dig in?
Look, he does dig in. Kel, in your editorial earlier, you said it's his pride that won't let him do, but I just think that every day that goes by paints him more and more into a corner. We've now had the Human Rights Commissioner, Lorraine Finlay, coming out saying we need a royal commission. We've had former Labor frontbenchers come out as well. My issue is quite simple. Politics should not be difficult. What is there to hide? A royal commission has the ability to go to places where an internal inquiry can't. It can report back incrementally as well. It can compel agencies to be able to give evidence. If there is nothing to hide, why not hold one? And those excuses that it is ridiculous that, you know, Mr Albanese wants to spare victims from giving evidence, that is ridiculous because people are wanting it. The other question that we need to also press him on and keep the pressure on is who are these experts that he consulted not to hold a royal commission? Is it Penny Wong? Is it Tony Burke? Is it Chris Bowen? Who are these experts that he consulted? And Dennis Richardson has been around for a very long time. He was head of ASIO. But why has he suddenly been appointed? You know, the pressure needs to build. We need a royal commission to find out the answers for the victims, the 15 innocent victims of the Bondi massacre, their families, but also to protect all Australians and those of the Jewish faith living here in Australia.
In particular, yes. You're quite right. Quick final question, Dee, 30 seconds. Has this Prime Minister lost the goodwill of the Australian people?
He's absolutely failed us from the very beginning. He's allowed people to die on his watch. He has been pathetic in his response. He's been mocked the world over if you've looked at any of the international media. If you were an outsider looking in the aftermath of the Bondi attacks, you would have thought that Josh Frydenberg or Chris Minns were our Prime Minister, not the actual Prime Minister. I think he's been lame and pathetic, and I feel so disappointed and let down by him, and I know a lot of people do.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much for your time, and we will chat again in the new year, I would think.